Grazie. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer of this event for giving me the opportunity to be here today and to introduce the proceedings of this splendid meeting. Societies are aging. The average age is increasing. Life expectancy everywhere is much higher than 50 or 100 years ago, even in the less developed areas of the world. Certainly, longevity is a great gift that the science gives us. If we live longer, it is because, thanks to scientific discoveries and technological evolutions, we age better, overcoming the pitfalls of life. During this interesting symposium, we will hear how in some of the most extraordinary laboratories in the world, scientists are working strenuously to ensure us an even longer life for humanity. Unfortunately, senescence is the most evident expression of our fragility, and currently, compared to the longevity that we are proud of, the duration of a healthy life is not advancing at the same rate. A UN report stated, aging population, we are living longer lives, but are we healthier? In Italy, for example, life expectancy is around 81 for males and 85 for females, but the healthy life expectancy is 75 and 77, with a reduction of 6 and 8 years, respectively. Improving this data would mean obtaining a great advantage in health, but also significant improvement in the economic sustainability of the national health system. Science tells us that preventing diseases is more effective and less expensive than curing them when the pathology is clearly manifested. The first point, therefore, for a healthy longevity must be based on improving benefits of healthy lifestyles and screening for chronic disease and tumors, as well as vaccinations against infectious diseases, and policies that lead to reducing injuries and habits that are dangerous to health. But prevention also requires a social policies act in order to reduce poverty and lack of education, which are relevant risk factors for all preventable diseases. The goal to reach in the near future must be a reduction of at least 50% of chronic diseases and 70% of tumors. If this result is achieved, the concept of prevention will be associated with that of the economic investment. The second point I want to highlight is longevity in women, first making some consideration on gender medicine. Males and females get sick differently. Therefore, for each disease, from heart attack to rheumatoid arthritis or Alzheimer's disease, it is necessary to know how it presents itself, evolves, and responds to therapies, not only in men but also in women. The reality is that scientific research, treatment protocols, and drug production have very often been oriented towards the best possible prevention therapy for males. In a gender-equal medicine, it is important to create a culture that allows women to overcome the gap that has penalized them for so many years. Gender medicine is an important aspect of longevity. Women live longer than men, but they pay this increase in longevity with a worse health. The data provided by the World Economic Forum is thought-provoking. Women spend 25% more of their lives in poor health compared to men. And this gap equates in the world per year to 75 million years of life lost due to poor health or early death. Accelerating progress towards closing the women health gap could yield an additional 7 healthy days per year per woman and create around $1 trillion in annual global GDP by 2040. Therefore, dealing with women's health at all ages, understanding the causes of their fragility, and defining adequate prevention and treatment protocols would improve their well-being, reduce the incidence of sick women in old age, and it would make healthcare spending sustainable, allowing for a significant economic advantage. That would incentivize policies aimed at the prevention, early diagnosis, and treatment of elderly patients and medical research. Working in the field of neuroscience, I like to dedicate the final part of this introduction to the brain and the mind. It seems obvious that the crucial aspect in an increasingly longer living world is how to age while maintaining intact cognitive functions. Let's remember that if the brain doesn't function well, life, no matter how long it may be, can never be truly wonderful. The quality of our dreams will depend on the mental abilities that we have developed throughout our entire existence. Unfortunately, dementia among elderly people is the 7th leading cause of death and one of the major causes of disability and dependency. According to WHO, currently more than 55 million people have dementia worldwide, and every year there are nearly 10 million new cases. In 2022, 4% of adults aged 65 and older were diagnosed with dementia, and the percentage increases with age, up to 13.1% in individuals 85 and older. These percentages decreased with the rising education level from 7.9% in individuals who didn't graduate high school to 2.2% in those with a college degree or higher. In this analysis, even family income revealed to be relevant. Further, fortunately, many studies suggest that lifestyle intervention and prevention diseases could be associated with an observed reduction in incidence of dementia. Moreover, the human brain has extraordinary characteristics that can help in this regard. Thanks to its remarkable plasticity, the brain, even in old age, has an astonishing ability to continually reinvent itself, change its structure, grow new synapses, sprout new branches, and increase connectivity. One of the simplest ways to realize this is to think at any age. Without learning, without memory, without emotions, the brain will not develop, and we will not have intelligence. Thanks to this, many people, like those presented in these images, retained cognitive abilities almost unchanged even in very old age. I would like to remember here two of my best friends, Rita Levi-Montalcini, Nobel Prize for Medicine, who died at 102, and Giovanni Bollea, the father of a child in neuropsychiatry, who died at 98, both with an extraordinary mind until the end. This means that cognitive decline is not a physiological necessity, an inevitable fate. It is possible to avoid it, or at least to reduce it. In practice, if we develop our brain properly and lead a healthy life, we can delay or reduce the risk of cognitive decline in any sense. But the development of our mind is not given to us. We must earn it through study, effort, culture, and appropriate lifestyle. Or we become at 80 or 90 depends on how well we have lived our lives. The last point I want to address is related to the dissemination of scientific knowledge necessary to create an aware society. Healthy longevity deeply depends on this. For this reason, it is important to include prevention programs and correct lifestyle education in all schools, at every level, including in medical schools. Neuroscience tells us something that I consider very important. We are born with a brain that is rich in neurons. Children have more than we do as adults because they need to learn everything. This is why a child shows receptivity and creativity that are much higher than those of an adult. This extraordinary potential of children can and must be harnessed, starting from primary school, to instill important messages in their minds that will allow them to acquire healthy habits for their future and the well-being of the entire society. Among the most important educational messages I include the importance of the scientific method, to consider it as one of the most important means for the progression of knowledge. Attention to healthy lifestyles, to instill the concept that the prevention is a social duty. Education about the web, so they understand that this technology could influence their thoughts. Education about illegal drugs and alcohol, explaining that the happiness will not be found in getting high, but in the beauty that life has to offer. In this way, considering existence as a continuous thread that connects the different ages of life in a whole of harmony and balance, as is represented by this sculpture by Gian Lorenzo Bernini, by educating children, we begin to prepare them for a healthy longevity. Thank you very much.
Grazie. E ora, from there, we will be privileged to hear from two giants in biomedical discovery, whose contributions have reshaped the future of human health and aging. Professor Venkatram Ramakrishnan, Nobel laureate in chemistry, has illustrated one of